Hi, and thanks for joining us for another one of Family Marines videos. My name's Tom. Now, the title on this video is Learn How to Buy a Used Triple-Toon Pontoon. So I happen to have two trade-in triple pontoons that I want to talk about today. And I want to talk about how to determine what the price on these boats should be. Now, what's hard about these two is that they both happen to be 2016 pontoon boats. Pretty new, right? Here's a statistic I want you to keep in mind. National Marine Manufacturers Association did a study a few years ago, and what they found out was that the average length of ownership of a pontoon boat in the United States, average length of ownership, is 122 months, a little over 10 years. Where in retrospect, the average length of ownership of, say, a fishing boat or a runabout is 47 months. So what does that tell you? That kind of tells you that, okay, there may be quite a few runabouts, fishing boats used on the market, but because the average length of ownership of a pontoon is 122 months, there's very few used pontoons available on the market, much less triple toons. So here's my point. If you go to the internet and you type in used triple toon pontoons for sale near me, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's just not a whole lot of boats available. There might be one down in Tennessee or over in Texas or down in Georgia or who the heck knows. But can that be a good gauge of what the value of a used pontoon in Minnesota is? Well, maybe a little bit, but there are different values in different parts of the country depending on the availability. Now, how do we determine value? The price. I don't control the price. The buyer doesn't control the price. The seller doesn't control the price. So what controls the price? The market controls the price. How does the market control the price? Well, number one, as I just mentioned, availability. Number two, color, style, brand name, horsepower, condition, seating configuration. All those things control the value or the price of a used pontoon. When you get to such a new pontoon and you're trying to compare this boat with some others that you might find on the internet that are completely different and they're priced all over the place, how do you determine whether this is a good value or not? Well, let me put it this way. Right now, this is a 25-foot Premier SS Super Sport with a 250 horse supercharged four-stroke, very nicely equipped, that we have listed at $57,900. And we'll go through this boat and show you what it's all about in a little bit. Now, in retrospect, a new boat, the exact same boat new, is almost $85,000. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. If a new one is $85,000, would I buy a used one for $80,000? Of course not. How about $75,000? No. $70,000? Probably not. $60,000. That's $25,000 difference between a used one and a new one. Well, now you got my attention anyway, right? Now I'm going to start thinking about that boat because I can save $25,000. Let's look at the condition. Let's look at the style, the horsepower, the color, all the things I just talked about, whether this boat interests me or not. Okay? So with such a new boat, that's one of the things that we have to take a look at, new versus used. How much money am I going to save if I purchase a used pontoon? Now, let's say that this boat was, say, 2005. And again, there's not a lot of used 2005 triple toons with 250 horses available out there, so you can't really compare. All right, now maybe you need to go to NADA, and now you have to know the year, the make, the model, the horsepower, all those things in order to type into NADA and get a retail value of what that used pontoon should be. And there again, that's just a guess, right? The market is what dictates the price on these pontoons, not NADA, not me, not you, not the seller. It's the market that controls that. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a 2016 25-foot Premier SS Super Sport. Super Sport means that it has the walk-through windshield, and when we get inside, I'll show you more about that. But this is a Mercury It's a 250 horse Pro 4-stroke supercharged inline 6-cylinder, and awesome engine. Oh my gosh, just an awesome engine. And this boat will rock with this 250 horse. One of the things that we added to this boat when we sold it new was what's called a turbo swing. So that's where you can hook up your ski, your tow rope for your tube, for your skis, whatever the case may be. You hook up your rope to this hook, and this thing swivels back and forth. One of the big things with this pontoon is it does have seagrass flooring. Carpeting, yeah. It's funny how people come in looking for a used pontoon and they go, oh, that one's got carpeting? No, I'm out. But you know, in the older boats, that's all you're going to see is carpeting. Newer boats, you know, roughly 2014 and newer, 14, 15, you might get carpeting or seagrass. 16 and newer, yeah, it's going to be pretty much all seagrass, which is huge. People don't want carpeting. Now, this one was also purchased with what we call an option called black hammered rails. Instead of the normal aluminum rails that you see here, or that you normally would see here, this one has an upgrade to the black hammered rails. It's in black and white, so very, very attractive. 25-inch diameter pontoons, pop-up stainless cleats, stainless handrail, cream-colored interior. We'll show you more when you get inside. Black rubber bumper on the side, LED docking lights, LED navigation lights. This customer had an electric anchor winch mounted on the front. So all you got to do is push the button and the anchor goes up and down. Now, of course, this is a triple tune. Premier has what they call a PTX. This is a 30-inch PTX. This is a very large center tube. Most center tubes are 25. So this 30-inch PTX really gets the boat up on top of the water rather than plowing through the water. You get better performance, you get better handling, you get better cornering, get better fuel economy, et cetera, all with a PTX. And of course, Premier has a patent on that, so nobody can copy them. It also has, you can't really tell here in the video, but this is a clear vinyl wrap on the tubes. You notice that they're not stained up. They're not all gray oxidized like a lot of used pontoons are. That's because there's a clear polyester, no, sorry, not polyester, vinyl film on the tubes. We had that put on when the boat was new. So the tubes, even though it's been in the water for 3 summers, the tubes look brand new. Very nice. So let's take a look at the inside. Okay, before we go inside, I wanted to talk about one more option that this particular pontoon has. This is an option from Premier. It's called a ricochet ladder. Now, as we all know, most ladders you have to manually tilt them up and down, where this one, being called a ricochet, is a automatic retracting ladder. So obviously you have to push the ladder down when you want to use it, but here's what happens, and this has happened to me too. The kids are swimming in the boat, climbing up the ladder, whatnot. We get all done. I forget that the ladder's down. I nail the throttle. I take off, and this ladder's hanging out the back, throwing a rooster tail up behind me because I forgot to lift it up. This ladder is a self-retracting ladder, so the pressure of the water as you take off will lift this ladder up into position. Okay, so starting up in the bow of the pontoon, you can see that we have a U-shaped seating arrangement. This again is an option. This is called a movable gate filler seat. And as you can tell, we can pop this seat out of here. We can actually move it over here to the side. It fits in there. Or we can move it in the stern to make a U-shaped seating area in the back of the boat. Mobile cup holders, ski storage locker. Because it's a triple tune, it does have a great big huge ski storage locker, and yeah, I could lay down inside there. Storage underneath the seats. And this one has, it's called a Mirage changing room, a pop-up changing room that very easily, very simply pops up out of the bench seat and creates a nice changing room area in there. So for those of you who may want to change out of your wet swimsuit, maybe put a porta potty in there, it's a very large area to do that. Okay, this one also has an option. It's called a Cockpit washdown system. And what this is simply a coiled garden hose stuffed inside this housing. that we pull the garden hose out, and there's a pump on the other end of this garden hose that is controlled by this switch right here. So when we turn the pump on, it activates, it pumps lake water, and now we can simply hose down the interior of our pontoon. So those days where you get up in the morning and the boat's full of dew and dead gnats or potato chips and Cheetos from the day before and sand and grass, you can easily hose down the interior of your pontoon and get it clean within a couple of minutes. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is an SS, a Super Sport, a walk-through windshield model. Premier makes this exact same boat for 2020. As I mentioned, this is a 2016. Tempered safety glass, aluminum frame, dual console. As we move back, both of the consoles are elevated, so the flex steel captain's chairs in this boat, which are very, very comfortable, by the way, are elevated up higher than the rest of the pontoon. Okay, the captain's chairs are, of course, reclining. The armrests pop up and down. They swivel, they slide. We have a grab handle here. This is what we call the slow down, damn it handle. Okay, usually the wives are saying, slow down, damn it. Okay, we have a storage compartment in there. We have a glove box in here. We have a remote stereo control over here. That's when the wife says, turn the music down, damn it. Okay. As I mentioned, we have a nice elevated helm. Oh yeah, all the speakers in this boat are backlit with LED lights. That's kind of cool. So you can turn your lights on, interior lights. This also has an awesome Polk sound system with a sub and an amp. So the sound system in here is awesome. Now, over on the driver's helm, we have a very large Garmin LCD screen, which is a depth finder, a GPS, it's color, of course, and gives us a plethora of information. We have our Mercury SmartCraft gauges, and this happens to be the tachometer, and down here is another LED screen that gives us a plethora of information about the motor. Here's our trim gauge, here's our fuel gauge, here's our speedometer, again an LCD screen down there with a lot of information, and of course there's our Polk audio system. Tilt wheel, nice looking steering wheel, very nice. All of our switches, little cubby hole, good place to store your cell phone when you're not using it. Cup holders. Oh, underneath both of the consoles, there's a trap door for storage. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the pump for our cockpit washdown system underneath there. Okay, in the back of the pontoon, it has two big Chaise lounges with rear-facing Chaise lounge bench seats. Therefore, this model is called a 250 SS RF, rear-facing bench seats is what the RF stands for. Obviously, there's storage under each of the bench seats. This, again, is that area that I mentioned. We could take that gate filler seat out from the front, put it in the back if we desire. Slim table that, of course, is removable and swivels. There's a trash can underneath this Chaise lounge, so you can easily access your trash. All right, that's nice to have. Everybody needs a trash can. 11-foot Evolution bimini top. Now, a lot of bimini tops on pontoons are 8, 9 feet. This one is 11 feet, so it's a very large bimini top. There is a mooring cover or playpen cover that is included with this boat. Snaps on, and of course, like all Premiers, we don't use those stainless steel snaps. We use J-clips. J-clips snap into the rail, making it a lot easier to take the cover on and off. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of boats. This is the second one. This also is a 2016. It's a Cypress K made by Harris down in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And it's a 25-foot triple tune, round center tube with lifting strakes, 150 horse Mercury, Skeeto bar. Again, seagrass flooring, which is very, very, very important today. Everybody wants seagrass flooring. Now, this boat we have listed at $35,000, and in comparison, if you were to look at a boat identical to this, you're looking at about mid-50s Okay, so this boat is about $20,000 off of what a new one would be. There again, because it's very, very difficult to find a used 2016 Triple Toon, how do you compare? Well, NADA isn't that accurate. Market, there's very few available to compare with. So really to compare, you got to take a new one at, let's say, mid-50s, and would you buy this boat for 50? Of course not. Would you buy it for 45? Probably not. Would you buy it for 40? Maybe. Would you buy it for 35? $20,000 difference between used and new. Okay, maybe that might be enough for you. All right? So that's kind of a gauge that we use to determine resale value or to determine the market value of a used pontoon, because there's so little information to compare it with. So let's take a look at this pontoon. As I mentioned, it's 25 feet. It's black down the sides. We got some orange graphics on the stern of the boat. So for you Harley Davidson lovers, there's the perfect colored pontoon for you. As I mentioned, it's 150 horsepower Mercury 4-stroke. And as you can see, it has a Skito bar right on top of the engine. Also has a couple of speakers pointing out the back of the pontoon. So if you're at the sandbar and you want to listen to your stereo, great place to do that. And of course, you can't see it from where you're at, but there's a 4-step, deep-reaching, telescopic boarding ladder over on the other side. All right. Again, as I mentioned, 25-inch diameter tubes with a 25-inch diameter center tube with what are called lifting streaks. That's these V-shaped things. So there's two on the outside of the center tube, and there's two on the inside of the outer tubes. What do those lifting streaks do? Well, if you think about this, a round pontoon is not a real good hydrodynamic design. It's going to kind of plow through the water because there's not a whole lot of lift. It's like a bowl in your kitchen sink compared to a cake pan in your kitchen sink. You put weight in each one of them, which one's going to sink down deeper? Well, of course the bowl is. Cake pan's going to sit up on top of the water. So what manufacturers do to help give the pontoon lift, to get the boat up on top of the water, is they add these lifting streaks. They run all the way to the bow of the pontoon, and they give the boat lift to get it up on top of the water, so that if a boat's up on top of the water, it creates less drag. Less drag equals better performance, better fuel economy, better handling, better turning. There's all kinds of benefits due to lifting streaks, getting the boat up on top of the water. Okay, so starting in the bow of the Cypress Cape, we've got two very large forward-facing Chaise lounge bench seats. This boat has an option called the pillow top upholstery. You can see that where it's wrinkled in here. That was an option back in the day. Very large bench seats. Golly, you could easily sit 3, if not 4 people for adults in these bench seats. A couple of speakers down below. Okay, across from the helm, the driver's seat, of course, is our big L bench. Chaise lounge, storage underneath, cockpit table. Under here, we have a sun deck that opens up and gives us some storage room back here. Now again, this door opens so we can walk in there. And down here we have an air compressor. Okay, so what this air compressor is for is you could hook a nozzle to this air hose, and instead of a cockpit washdown system, well, I got it tied up on this hose here. You can blow out the cockpit with air instead of blowing it out with water like on the SS Premier. We had a cockpit washdown system that uses water. This one uses air. So again, if you get dead bugs and potato chips and grass and sand throughout the cockpit of the boat, just put an air nozzle in there and blow it out. Kind of cool. Oh, I forgot to mention the air compressor back there. Great tool to blow up your inflatable tow tubes or inflatable whatever. So you got an air compressor on board. That's kind of nice. All right, so here's our helm. And we've got a speaker mounted here. There's one underneath the L bench, removable windshield. Again, we have a very nice Polk audio system, although this one does not have a sub and an amp like the SS did, but it's still a really good Polk audio system. Our speedometer, our fuel gauge, our digital depth, our trim gauge, our tachometer, nice looking steering wheel, tilt, of course, 5-position tilt wheel. Over here is a USB jack with an 1/8 inch jack, so you can plug your smartphone into your stereo, so if you want to listen to your music. Of course, this is probably Bluetooth, although I don't see a Bluetooth insignia. Oh yeah, that's a Bluetooth, so you could listen to your music via Bluetooth. Of course, your switches are over here, your control, driver's bucket seat, flip-up armrest, it swivels, it slides, it reclines. Included with the price of the boat is, again, a playpen cover. Golly, most pontoons that I know of are going to come standard with a playpen cover. This one happens to snap on instead of using the J-clips like Premier uses. I believe that the bimini top on this one is either probably a 9-foot. I haven't opened it up and put a tape measure to it, but I'm guessing it's a 9-foot like most playpen covers are, our bimini tops are. This is a 4-gate. Now, why is a 4-gate important? Often we hear from our customers that they want to be able to pull up on the starboard side of the pontoon to their dock, because their dock is on this side, and with a 3-gate, you don't get this gate right here. You only get one in the front, one on the port side, one in the stern. So having a 4-gate, some people feel is very, very important if you want your dock on this side of the pontoon. What's nice about having the dock on this side of the pontoon is the driver gets a bird's eye view of where the dock is located as he's pulling into it, because it's right on the starboard side, rather than trying to see where the dock is if you're looking at the port side. Okay, so here's a question that you might ask. Why is this 2016 $20,000 less than that Premier 2016? Both of them are 25-foot pontoons, right? Well, yeah, but here's the difference. The biggest difference, of course, one of the biggest differences, this has a 150 horsepower inline 4-cylinder electronic fuel injected engine. That is a 250 horsepower supercharged Pro 4-stroke. That's a massive, that's a lot more expensive than the engine on this one is. The other big thing is the Premier SS is a very high-end Premier, where although this is a very nice pontoon, a Cypress K is not the level of quality of boat. I'm not saying it's an entry-level piece of crap. I'm saying it's more probably, let's call it a Chevrolet. It's not a Saturn, it's not a Yugo. Let's call it a Chevrolet, where let's call that a Buick. Okay, isn't there a big difference between a Chevrolet and a Buick? Especially if they still made Oldsmobile. It's still, you know, there's 2 levels up. The Buicks are obviously a lot more expensive than the Chevrolets. There's a very nice pontoon. People would love to have this pontoon. Don't get me wrong, it's not a cheap pontoon. It's just not to the level of that pontoon. Take, for example, there's a Barletta over there with a tower, a power tower. That's got a 300 horse V8 on it. That's a little over $100,000. So, you know, you got to compare apples for apples. You can't compare a Chevrolet with a Buick or a Cadillac or a Mercedes or a BMW. You got to kind of compare apples for apples. Okay, so that kind of takes care of learn how to buy a used triple tune pontoon. I hope I helped you out there. It's hard, it's confusing, it's difficult, especially because there's so few used triple tunes available. It's just really hard to get a market value of what these things are worth. But if you happen to do find one and you're not sure whether it's a great deal or not, feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to help you out, give you our opinion of what the boat is that you're looking at, what its value is. So that brings us to our phone number, which is area code 320-222-BOAT. That's 222-2628. You could check us out on Facebook. Our website, of course, is familymarineboats.com. And our big thing is check us out on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in the search bar Family Marine Willmar, and you'll see our icon. Click on our icon, and that'll bring you to our home page. And right across the top, it'll say Valuable Buyer Information. There's a plethora of videos on there to help you decide which pontoon, which horsepower, which trailer, what interior design suits your needs the best. So check out our YouTube channel. And while you're there, please subscribe. We'd appreciate that. We need all the subscribers that we can get. So thanks very much for watching.